Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Finance Ministry estimates growth at closer to 7% for FY25. This is higher than the 6.3% estimated by the IMF. Northblock says India is expected to become the world's third largest economy in 3 years with a GDP of $5 trillion and can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030. The sensex and the nifty post the biggest single-day gain in a month, led by Reliance Industries. RL shares hit a record high, adding over 1 lakh crore rupees in market cap. Brokers and traders have divergent views on the proposal to extend trading hours for derivatives, says Sebi Chief Madhabi Puri Buch. Brokers are likely to firm up their stance by the end of the month. Crude oil prices surge after 3 U.S. soldiers are killed in a drone attack in Jordan. U.S. President Joe Biden blames Iran-backed militants, but Iran denies the charges. These are the first American casualties from enemy attacks since the Israel-Hamas war broke out in October. U.S. brokerage firm Cantor Fitzgerald expects a 50% upside on the Adani Enterprise stock, gives it an overweight rating, says the company is too big to ignore and is at the core of everything India wants to accomplish. Adani Group's shares rally in trade. A legal setback for top FMCG companies like HUL, Nestle, Johnson & Johnson, among others. The Delhi High Court upholds the anti-profiteering provisions under the Goods and Services Tax, rules that measures do not violate constitutional norms and are aimed at consumer welfare. ITC misses estimates in Q3. EBITDA declines by over 3%. Margins shrink even as profits beat estimates due to a 468 crore rupee tax credit. Marico meets estimates in Q3 with a profit growth of nearly 16%. Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel continue to add subscribers at a steady pace. Vodafone Idea loses over 10 lakh subscribers in November compared to 20 lakh users lost in October. Vodafone also reports a margin expansion and EBITDA growth of over 1% in Q3. Losses narrow but remain elevated at nearly 7,000 crores. Opposition parties in Maldives are ready to move an impeachment motion against President Muizzu. This comes a day after a brawl between the government and opposition members that halted parliamentary proceedings. Clashes erupted over the appointment of 4 members to the cabinet. Protests by onion farmers in Nashik disrupt the auction for a couple of hours at Asia's largest wholesale market. Farmers demand the removal of the export ban imposed by the government, saying it has resulted in losses of 10,000 crore rupees. Well, straight to the trading action of the day. A solid start to the budget week for the markets. The Lal Street posted its biggest single-day gain that we've seen in a month. The Nifty and the Sensex rallied close to 2% higher. Reliance Industries leading the market higher with a 7% gain, adding over 1 lakh crore rupees in market cap today. So that's the picture. The Nifty up 385 points. The Sensex higher by about 1240. The mid-cap index 770 points high. And Reliance, as we were telling you, the star in trade today up by 7%. Clearly, the blue chips faring better than the broader markets today. Prashant joins us now to wrap up the market action for us. Bulls coming back in style after an extended holiday, Prashant.
Very strong bounce is what we had. You know, as they say, what is worth doing is worth overdoing. A pullback was due. It was coming, but the scale of it, just in a single trading session, I don't think anyone saw it coming. And there were drivers to it, which by themselves, don't make too much sense. But collectively, it showed up, of course, what the Nifty did and what the other indices did as well. The Nifty up on your screen, very strong gains. Almost 400 points today. Bank Nifty looking good. I mean, of course, in terms of quantum percentage gains day on day, lagging behind with what the Nifty did. Public sector is a space shining through. So the Nifty Energy Index, CPSE, the Public Sector Bank Index. I mean, some of the top gainers were all in the PSU space, banks and non-banks. Reliance single-handedly contributing 110, 115 index points to what the Nifty did today. And that was a very large contributor. And of course, I mean, if you look at the Nifty, other gainers, apart from Reliance, again, that PSU flavor is there. ONGC, Coal India, BPCL, Power Grid, NTPC, these are some of the largest gainers, and they're all Nifty stocks. The Adani stocks participated as well. There was that seasoned US broker which initiated coverage on Adani Enterprises, which rallied almost about 3,100. Adani Ports was higher strongly. Adani Power was up about 5% as well. In the broader market, again, a lot of PSU names, SJV and PFC, REC, NBCC, IFCI, some of the names there. IRB was up strongly. NCC was up very sharply. There was Castrol, names like Amber, Voltamp, and Shakti Pumps, which was up about 20%, started 20% higher and ended 20% up. Long list of very strong volume-led gains. Some pullbacks coming through, some of them, of course, earnings-related. AU Bank stands out significantly. SBI Card, again, disappointing on numbers. And there was CET, which pulled back a little bit as well. The Nifty, after today's closes, ended at an important technical resistance level, which I think is the next one to cross if the markets got to build on what we saw this Monday.
Right, Prashant, many thanks for joining us. While staying with the market, Sebi chairperson Madhavi Puri-Butt says that brokers and traders differ on the proposal to extend derivatives trading. Speaking at a brokers forum in Mumbai, the Sebi chief said that the market regulator will wait for recommendations from the broking community before taking a final call. Brokers have promised to give their views by the end of Feb.
There are very divergent views and diverse views right now, even amongst the broking community. At the moment, my understanding is that the broking community itself is divided. It's a divided house. And there is a lot of discussion and deliberation going on. And that, they would be reaching some conclusion one way or another, in some reasonable timeline. What do the MIIs think is the first stage? What do the brokers think is the second stage? What do the investors think is the third stage? And we would need to take all of that into consideration.
So waiting for final recommendations on whether or not the market trading hours for derivatives should be extended. That's the Sebi chief. Now, the Finance Ministry expects India's growth to be closer to 7% for FY25. This is higher than the 6.3% estimated by the International Monetary Fund. In its economic review, the Finance Ministry has highlighted that India is expected to become the world's third largest economy in the next 3 years with a GDP of $5 trillion and can aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030. Sapna joins us now with the details. Sapna, no economic survey this time around because this is an interim budget, a vote on account. But the chief economic advisor has put out a 74-page economic review. Take us through the details.
Well, in terms of the big economy numbers, the Indian review of the Indian economy talks about how close to 7% could be the growth rate in FY25. In the current year, they are sticking to the estimates which have already come out, 7.3%. In terms of the $5 trillion economy mark, well, that is likely to be achieved in the next 3 odd years. However, India will also aspire to become a $7 trillion economy by 2030. That will be conditional on factors like inflation differentials and the exchange rates. Having said that, 3 critical priority areas for India going forward: health, skilling and energy security. All 3 are going to be top focus as far as the government's policy push is concerned. Last but not the least, in terms of challenges, the document also talks about how hyper-globalization seems to be coming off, and onshoring and offshoring. These are the key buzzwords now, and this is going to have its own impact on growth parameters. Also, how artificial intelligence is going to pose a big challenge for all countries around the world, especially in terms of employment, especially in the service sector. And last but not the least, how should the growth rates be managed, or rather the growth momentum kept up, keeping in mind the energy security concerns and the energy transition. So these are the big points that are being highlighted in the document. The nature of the challenges highlighted, of course, is slightly different from what we have been hearing forward and more in sync with the current times.
Okay, Sapna, many thanks for joining us. Former Chief Economic Advisor to the government, K.V. Subramaniam, believes higher PM Kisan allocation in the budget is legitimate. Subramaniam is also CNBC-TV18's budget editor this year. He revealed the 3 numbers that he will watch out for in the upcoming interim budget. Take a look.
Even from the perspective of, if you want to keep the real amount that is going to the farmers the same, 6,000 was announced 5 years back. If we take an average inflation of about, 5 to 6%, then, over a 5-year period, a 30 to 40% increase, which will translate into about 2,500 to 3,000 rupees. So 9,000 rupees in real terms would be similar to the 6,000 rupees 5 years back. So that's a very legitimate ask. First, I would look at the real growth number that is projected, and as I said, I expect it to be 7%. The second number I would look at is the growth in the revenues. And my sense is, as I was telling you, the tax buoyancy has been about 1.6. So I expect the growth in tax revenue, or overall revenues of the government, to be north of 13%. That's the second number I would be watching. The third number which I would be watching actually is the fiscal deficit. Of course, implicit in that is the increase in the overall spending. Fiscal deficit I expect it to be between 5.3 to 5.4%, thereby following the glide path towards 4.5% in FY26.
And to watch the entire conversation with the former CEA and our very own budget editor, tune into CNBC-TV18 at 9:30 p.m. tonight. The big international story that we're tracking: crude oil prices on the rise after 3 soldiers from the U.S. military were killed and over 34 injured in a drone attack on a U.S. base in Jordan. President Biden has blamed Iran-backed militants for the attack, which took place near the Jordan-Syria border, but Iran has denied any involvement in the attack. These are the first American casualties in enemy attacks since the Israel-Hamas war broke out nearly 4 months ago. According to a report by Al Jazeera, a group calling itself the Islamic Resistance in Iraq has claimed responsibility for the drone attack on U.S. troops. Israel's military claims to have killed dozens of armed terrorists in battles at the central Gaza Strip. According to the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza, more than 26,000 people have been killed in Israeli attacks since early October. Meanwhile, Israel's cabinet ministers attended a conference called Return to Gaza, where they discussed plans to build settlements in the war-ravaged territory. Israel's Interior Security Minister, Finance Minister were among the many elected members who attended the conference. They called on the Israeli Prime Minister to find a legal way to voluntarily immigrate Palestinians from Gaza and impose death sentences on terrorists. Chinese real estate company Evergrande has been ordered to liquidate its assets by a Hong Kong court. This after the debt-ridden company failed to provide a plan to restructure its debt. The company's liability is worth around $300 billion and is widely believed to be the world's most indebted property developer. Now, the management has said that it will continue to operate in mainland China as it is independent of its Hong Kong arm. The stock was suspended from trading in Hong Kong after plummeting 20%. Here's former Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale on the real estate crisis in China. Take a look.
It has never been easy to make an assessment of the Chinese economy because we are dealing with a country that is opaque in its provision of information to the rest of the world, critical data on which you analyze an economy. What is clear is there is a slowdown, and the slowdown is there for structural reasons. There is falling land sales revenue. This was the principal modality through which finances were raised by the state to build infrastructure. The result is you're not going to have infrastructure-fueled growth anymore.
Well, that's the latest in China. Back home in earnings corner today, FMCG major ITC missed estimates in Q3. Revenue growth of 1.6% was well below estimates. Margins contracted by nearly 200 basis points compared to the same quarter last year. Profits, though, ahead of estimates, but that was thanks to a tax credit of 468 crore rupees. Staying with FMCG, it was a good quarter for Marico, ahead of street estimates across most parameters. Net profit up 16%, margins expanded 270 basis points on an annual basis. However, revenue declined 2%. In a statement, the management said that domestic business has witnessed signs of improvement, while the international business has shown resilience amidst headwinds. More earnings. Bajaj Finance reporting strong third quarter results, beating estimates on all fronts. Net profit rose more than 22%, while net interest income jumped 25%. However, asset quality marginally deteriorated on a sequential basis. The company has announced it will invest up to 400 crore rupees in its financial securities arm in one or more tranches. Vodafone Idea is inching closer towards the positive territory. The company's losses have narrowed by more than 1,700 crore rupees to 6,985 crore rupees on a sequential basis. Revenue remains flat. Margins expanded by 80 basis points. The company lost 10 lakh subscribers in November. That's less than the 20 lakh subscribers it lost in October. Now, the Delhi High Court has upheld the validity of the national anti-profiteering provisions under the GST Act. This comes as a legal setback for top FMCG companies like HUL, Nestle, Johnson & Johnson, among others, which had questioned the constitutional validity of the law. Ashmit joins us now with more details. Ashmit, take us through what the court has ruled in this matter. Of course, an appeal is possible in the Supreme Court, but where does this leave the anti-provision law of the GST?
Well, indeed, a key decision this coming in from the Delhi High Court. The High Court upholding Section 171, which is the anti-profiteering provision of the GST Act. It is this provision which essentially mandates that for any tax foregone, it needs to be passed on as a commensurate reduction in price. Now, this was the very provision, alongside with various other rules, that was contested fiercely by a huge number of players. More than 50 companies were before the Delhi High Court, the likes of HUL, Johnson & Johnson, Nestle, Abbott, Jubilant Foods. All of them had raised the question not so much on the intent, on the spirit of the legislation in question, which is passing on the benefit, but rather the implementation of Section 171. They had argued that there is no mechanism which provides for fixing. There is no formula for fixing this quantum of profiteering, and therefore this section is vulnerable to abuse. That was the concern raised. Now, all of this has been answered by the Delhi High Court. The High Court, number one, has upheld the constitutional validity. Second, the Delhi High Court has held that the mere possibility of an abuse cannot be grounds for nullifying the entire legislation, nullifying the entire provision. So that argument has been struck down. The Delhi High Court has further reasoned as a part of its order that it is not required for there to be a fixed formula hard-coded into the law for deciding this quantum of profiteering. The Delhi High Court has also upheld the power of the centre in terms of the power to levy interest component on any delayed payments. And finally, the Delhi High Court concludes by saying that this entire piece of provision, which essentially transfers the benefits onto the end consumer, is something which is in public interest, which is in consumer interest, and there is no violation of any constitutional provisions, and therefore no grounds have been made out for striking it down. But let's keep in mind that this is a direction and order coming in from a division bench of a Delhi High Court. This, of course, is vulnerable to challenge, can be appealed before the top court.
All right, Rashpit, appreciate you joining us. IT company NASDAQ is looking to induct a private equity partner as co-owner to raise capital. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the company's promoters are evaluating the entry of a co-promoter via primary capital infusion of $400 million. Sources also say that NASDAQ's promoters are open to diluting their stake to about 25%. Promoter stake in NASDAQ stood at 37% at the end of 2023. Bajaj plans to raise $200 million through a rights issue at a valuation of $225 million. Remember, the edtech startup was once valued at $22 billion but suffered numerous markdowns. However, with this fundraise, the edtech firm looks to address its working capital issues. Aishwarya joins us now with more. Aishwarya, struggle for Bajaj, but hoping that this will help alleviate some of its pain.
Bajaj has launched a rights issue to raise $200 million from existing investors at a valuation of $225 million. This is significant for the company that raised $250 million at a valuation of a whopping $22 billion in 2022. The troubled company has suffered numerous valuation downgrades, most recently from BlackRock, which cut down its valuation to just $1 billion. In a letter to shareholders, CEO Baiju Ravindran said, "This rights issue is about those who care the most about Baiju's stepping up as we continue to turn the company around. It aims to offer all existing shareholders the chance to participate in this proposed capital raise to maintain shareholding without the need to ascribe valuations," he added. Peak 15 refused to comment on CNBC-TV18's query regarding participation in the rights issue. Ravindran also told shareholders that the company is now less than a quarter away from achieving operational profitability. Ravindran added that the founders of the EdTech group have invested $1.1 billion into the startup in the last 18 months and seek continued support from the investors. This comes just a week after Baiju's posted its FY22 financials. The company's losses had ballooned 1.8 times from 4,564 crore rupees in FY21 to 8,245 crore rupees in FY22. The firm had attributed its losses to the performance of its two acquisitions, White Hat Jr. and Osmo. Back to you.
Aishwarya, many thanks for joining us. Aditya Birla Group Chairman Kumar Birla, whose business interests span from cement to telecom to textile and fashion, has said the nation is awash with optimism, pride and anticipation. Birla, in his annual note, says the viral meme, "just looking like a wow," echoes the vibrant energy of the Indian economy. Aside, KM Birla has also touched upon the performance of the conglomerate and laid out the roadmap. He says the group's market cap grew 40% on a yearly basis to $90 billion. He added that the Aditya Birla Group was looking at creating a growth platform with the launch of 2 new and large businesses this year. Remember, the AB Birla Group is set to foray into the paint sector under Birla Opus. They're also entering the branded jewellery retail business. So that is Kumar Mangalam Birla. Up next on India Business Hour, the union budget less than 72 hours away. What do citizens want? Will there be a greater thrust on the infra sector? That and more coming up. Catch all of CNBC-TV18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. You're watching India Business Hour. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra has entered Bihar a day after JDU chief Nitish Kumar quit the India bloc to rejoin the NDA and take oath as the chief minister for the 9th time. This is Gandhi's first visit to Bihar since the state assembly poll campaign in 2020. Meanwhile, Delhi's chief minister Arvind Kejriwal criticized Nitish Kumar and said his decision will harm the BJP-led NDA and the India bloc will benefit from it.
मुझे लगता है कि नीतीश जी को नहीं जाना चाहिए था। उन्होंने जो किया वो ठीक नहीं किया, गलत किया उन्होंने। जनतंत्र के लिए इस तरह का कंडक्ट सही नहीं है। लेकिन जो मेरी अपनी समझ है लोगों की सोच की और जो रिएक्शंस आ रहे हैं, इससे एनडीए को फायदे की बजाय भारी नुकसान होगा बिहार के अंदर। ये तो रिजल्ट्स ही बताएंगे, लेकिन मेरा अपना मानना है कि एनडीए को बिहार के अंदर इससे काफी ज्यादा नुकसान होगा। इंडिया गठबंधन को फायदा होगा।
That is Arvind Kejriwal. Now, protests by onion farmers in Nashik disrupting the auction for a couple of hours at Asia's largest wholesale market. Farmers demanded the removal of the export ban imposed by the government, saying it has resulted in losses of 10,000 crore rupees. Less than 3 days to go for the interim budget. Major brokerages expect the thrust on rail capex to continue. That's not all. The power sector may also see higher capex allocation. Vivek is standing by with the infra sector's wish list. Vivek.
Well, we're talking about the infra space, the railway space and the utility space in terms of budget expectations. What is it that markets are expecting? Well, we have a whole host of brokerages that have put out their expectations for each sector. When you're talking about the infra and the road space, Jefferies believes that monetization of road assets may continue. Citi expects a 12 to 15% year-on-year growth for infra capex in FY25. As far as the railway space is concerned, Jefferies is anticipating a 5 to 10% rise in budget spends. Nuvama is expecting the railway capex to accelerate to almost a 20% growth on a year-on-year basis. As remember, keep an eye out for railway capex. The railway stocks have been significant outperformers the last year and a half, and also there has been significant on-ground activity in terms of improving railway infrastructure and the number of trains. Now, coming to the power stocks, utilities, remember, the last year and a half, the entire narrative has changed, with thermal once again becoming the darling of both the stock markets, and also it's now important as the government tries to go ahead and ensure that there is energy security. Jefferies believes that power sector PSUs may see a rise in capex spends with the need for capacity additions. They also believe that there could be some budgetary allocations for states to continue electricity reforms such as RDSS, which is the revamped distribution sector scheme. Citi believes that there could be some amount of commentary as far as discom privatization is concerned, and this will keep the entire utility pack under focus.
Many thanks, Vivek. That's the infrastructure sector's wish list. The real estate sector has a long budget wish list as well. A higher price threshold for the affordable housing scheme and the extension of the Prime Minister's Awas Yojana subsidy window, to name just a few. The affordable housing segment has seen a slowdown in demand post the pandemic, with developers scaling back new supply. Shivani Bajaj is standing by now with the real estate sector's budget wish list. Shivani.
Well, in anticipation of the upcoming budget, the real estate sector is eagerly awaiting government considerations on adjusting the price bands of homes qualifying as affordable housing. Industry experts highlight that while the current size criteria, which is 60 square meters carpet area, aligns well, the universal pricing limit of 45 lakhs falls short, especially in high-cost cities. Industry experts say that cities like Mumbai demand a higher threshold, suggesting a revised band of 85 lakhs or more, while other major cities should see an increase to 60 to 65 lakhs. This adjustment aims to broaden the scope of affordable housing, enabling more more home buyers to benefit from incentives like the reduced GST at 1% without ITC and other government subsidies. Another major demand from the sector is that the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana subsidy, which is set to expire in December 2024, could be extended till December 2025. They also anticipate enhancement to the eligibility criteria, particularly the interest subsidies ranging from rupees 2.3 lakh to 2.7 lakhs to further support affordability. The affordable housing segment has seen a slowdown in the demand post the pandemic, with developers scaling back new supply in this segment. Anarock research data underscores this trend, revealing a decline in the affordable category's new supply share across top 7 cities from 26% in 2021 to just 18% in 2023. The budget homes category has experienced a notable dip in overall sales, plummeting to approximately 20% in 2023 from over 30% in 2022 and nearly 40% in the period preceding the pandemic. According to experts, home buyers in this segment are most impacted by affordability constraints in the inflationary scenario characterized by high interest rates and increasing residential prices. Back to you.
Well, that was the real estate sector's wish list. What about the rest of India? The CNBC-TV18 budget ballot box has collated wishes from across the country. It's currently open at various hotspots and at CNBC-TV18.com. Log into our website, register your budget wish for the Finance Minister. Here's a snippet of all the action from various hotspots across the country.
That are being launched, that their implementation should also be taken care of.
We see a lot of issues from GST perspective, things like GST reconciliations, the purchases, not really reflected through systematically on the GST portals.
In the budget, there is no provision for promotion of Indian classical music or the protection of Indian classical music.
प्रोफेशन टैक्स 10,000 रुपया कमाने वाला आदमी या 10 लाख पर मंथ कमाने वाला आदमी सबको 200 रुपया ही प्रोफेशन टैक्स है पर मंथ.
I want a MacBook.
Do you want MacBook to be cheaper and made in India?
Yes.
They need to drop GST rates. They can't just keep spending on infrastructure for the poor at the expense of the middle class.
The government should waive off the capital gain tax first of all. That is the bet. So that, yeah.
Definitely, inflation is one of the concerns. That is why we ask for DNS allowances.
Tax cut. There should be more relaxation for women because they are the homemakers of the country.
I feel in a lot of budgets, for middle class, not much incentives are given.
Lower the interest loan on educational loans as students face a lot of difficulties paying the interest loans.
If the government is collecting a lot of taxes, there has to be allocation to the government schools to make it better.
India of my dreams would be where every child gets to learn.
बेरोजगारी वगैरह वाला जो समस्या है, उस पे as a youth we are very concerned about that.
आम लोगों की परेशानी कम होनी चाहिए, उसकी समस्याओं पर ज़्यादा ध्यान होना चाहिए.
Well, that is the citizens' budget wish list for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And before we go, the beating retreat ceremony, which officially marks an end to Republic Day celebrations, took place in the capital's Kartavya Path today. The music bands of the Indian Defence Forces and the Central Armed Police Forces played music before distinguished guests that included President Murmu, Vice President Dhankar and Prime Minister Modi. We leave you with those visuals. Thanks very much for watching India Business Hour.
Young